In some cases, reality plays spiritual hardball. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to ascension, which is a spiritual, metaphysical, esoteric concept, you are given a choice. The choice may appear to be difficult, may appear to be ugly, you may be afraid of it on the surface. But the alternative is, if you reject that choice or that opportunity, the lower choice can be even more ugly, uglier. And then the alternative to that can be uglier. So we're dealing with ascension. Now, in any variant, any understanding of ascension, spiritual growth, moving ahead, moving forward, growing. And this is not in every case, this is not for everybody. In my view, there's a lot of people who have come here who are more advanced. Let's say they come from other star systems. Let's say they have the star being soul. Let's say they have past lives. More advanced people. More advanced spiritual beings. Old souls. I don't want to limit it by saying old souls, but there is a variety of these people. There are some people here who are stuck here and have been trying to get out, but they're trapped in this karmic cycle. And we've talked about this before, that if you do the wrong thing, you accrue a lot of karmic debt, and that prevents your release from this reality system. Then you reincarnate with the karmic debt, and you're going to make the same mistakes unless you can overcome your issues, and you accrue more debt, and you each time you incarnate, it's into a difficult, more difficult life. You're trapped here. You can't get out, because the goal is to get out. That's the goal. It's a school. You go to school, you go to university for 4 years, and some people are there 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Some people are there 10 years. They can't get out, can't graduate. I don't know what I want to... They might even have multiple degrees, but they feel incomplete. They might only need one course to graduate, but to do that course requires them to overcome some issue they have. Somebody did them wrong, something to do with their family, and they won't take that course out of principle. I'm not going to take that course. But that's a kind of that's that fear. That's that thing preventing them from growing up, from moving on, and they don't want to deal with it. And we always have this challenge, you know, when you're afraid of something, you do everything else. But that which you fear may be the thing you need to face. So ascension is very similar. The problem is, in some cases, I'm going to qualify it, in some cases, reality plays spiritual hardball. Hardball is, let's say you're given a choice. Let's use an example. You're given a choice. You're going to be a metaphysical teacher. Let's say that. And let's say right now you're an accountant. I'm just using a wild example. You're an accountant. You have a good income. You have savings. You have a very peaceful life. You drive a nice car. You have a house. Now you wake up and you realize all the messages and all the dreams and the psychics and your intuition all tell you, I need to be a metaphysical teacher. It's a big leap, right? It's a big leap. Now, in the normal case, you're going to just reject it. You're going to find every reason to reject it. You're going to shut it down. You're going to block it out. You're going to refuse. You're going to put your head into your book and count your numbers. And you might be able to do that for a number of years until it pops up again. It comes, you know, it's a crescendo. It's like waves in the ocean. You feel it. You need to do something. You need to move on. And sometimes you can make it subside. But for some people, it can't. And so you're given a choice. You need to be a metaphysical teacher. This is my example. And you say you're afraid of it. It's a cost. It's a loss. People are going to ridicule you. You might lose your relationship. You might lose your house. For what? To teach people about things that science can't explain? So you reject it again. And then you're shown the alternative. The alternative is a secondary challenge that will move you forward spiritually. That's all it is. These ascensions, when you reach a new level of awareness, there's a new challenge. There's a new opportunity. And it comes at a cost. It's a new learning experience. You have to do the work. It's not easy. Now, if you don't take option A, which is kind of an opportunity to teach and to learn metaphysical stuff, in our example, then, which again, this is a choice, right? You're in control. You can learn this stuff independently. You can measure your time. You have to push yourself, and you're going to find some hardship. You might find some big changes in your life. You might find some ostracization, ridicule, embarrassment. But you know, anybody who's done that these are manageable. They're not pretty. They're not nice. You say no, I won't do it. So the alternative is, again, this is reality. This is not me. This is reality. And this is stipulated in your contract. Your incarnation contract says, at age X, we need to move you forward spiritually. And these will be the options. If you don't take option A, you'll be given option B. If you somehow reject option B, you'll be option C. And they're not pretty. Option B might be, there is an accident and you're handicapped. This is the system. Now, there's an accident, and on the physical level, it's a tragedy. But on the spiritual level, it might be the result of being afraid of taking control, taking leadership, taking control of your spiritual life. So you're put in a situation where there's a handicap, you're crippled in some way. Now you're forced to change your view of life. You're forced to change your job. You're forced to change your life. And you have people looking at you with sympathy, with empathy. Poor person. That was such a tragedy. And you have this comfort, right? And now you have time to focus on your spirituality. You have time to figure out the meaning of life. You have time to grow spiritually. And you may not do it even, but now you're forced. In some cases, early on, that situation may be temporary, right? You may be temporarily handicapped or crippled, or something happens for a period of years. You know, your finances are cut off for a few years, right? There's many ways to do it. And then that might continue, and you might be given a choice again. Now, what do you choose? You want to go this way, or you want to go? And then if you say no, it might be worse. It might be permanent. Well, the doctors discovered there's permanent damage. My view, of course, my view in all of this is coming from a much higher level. And you're not physically or visibly aware of it. So this is at a higher level, higher levels of awareness. If you have that awareness, you can perceive that. Some people will do meditation, some people will have dreams, some people will visit a psychic to get some knowledge. Now, so you see what happens is you're given an opportunity, but it's not a very good opportunity because you have to give up so much. But according to your contract, according to your spiritual growth, that might be your best option. Now, I'm just using the metaphysical as an example. You might become a political leader. You might open up a restaurant. I mean, you might start your own business. It could be anything, but it's difficult. There's no guarantee of success. But the advantage is you're in control. Like you start your own business and it costs you everything and you've lost a lot of money, but you're in control, right? And you suffer and you say, why did I start my own business? I should have just stayed at home. But you're in control. The alternative is something happens to you, you're not in control, and you're forced to change. When this happens early on in your spiritual growth, something will happen to you that's kind of temporary. It's kind of a warning. Something will happen at work. You'll be suspended. Something happens to your health. You'll be hospitalized for something. You'll injure yourself and you're out of action for a period of time. That could be that. So those things happen as a way to kind of force you to make some changes. But if you don't make changes, something worse will happen. Because it has to, the system must fulfill your incarnation contract. And the system uses these technicians, right? The reality technicians will get the information on your contract and say, well, we need to get them on this path, and what are the ways to do it? Now, it's hard sometimes to speak to people who are very logical and not tuned in to see all the interconnections, because you can write off a lot of stuff. But those who are aware, you can think back to things that happened to you, and why they happened, and how did you grow from it, and did you make any change? Now, I'll share an experience I had, which is very significant. Again, this is way before I had any real awareness, or maybe I had the awareness, I just wasn't aware. I just didn't respect it. Or I just knew I always had some kind of awareness. I was always a very physical person, very athletic, but I'm driven by physical. I liked a physical job because it made me feel that I was doing something. If it wasn't physical, I didn't feel like I was doing something. I was very athletic. I was in shape. I was training. I had good nutrition. This is in my early 20s. So one day, and I had decided I'm just going to keep doing this because I can live forever. I can do whatever I want, right? You feel that when you're young. When you're young, you think you can do this forever. You can overcome anything because you can do it. You're confident, right? It's this false confidence. as you get older, you realize that doesn't work that way. So I was there. And then, so I remember at a point I decided I'm going to keep doing this. And then I was at work and I had an accident. And you've had small accidents before. I recover. It's an injury, I recover. It's an injury, I recover. I heal. I can heal. I can heal anything. Early 20s, right? I can do anything. I could change the world. But this particular accident was pretty serious. I was immobilized. And it wasn't healing. I went to the doctor, says, this is pretty serious. You're going to be off work for a while, which is a big shock. I was very angry because now I couldn't do my physical activities. I couldn't work out. I couldn't show my physical prowess. He says, you're going to be out. And it was going to be for at least 6 weeks. I've never had that before. 6 weeks, and it was a kind of it wasn't even an obvious injury. It was just a strange injury while lifting some heavy equipment. And so I was out, and I was in pain. And there was a pain that I couldn't get rid of the pain. And I had to do rehabilitation. I had to do physical rehabilitation. I was in pain. I didn't want to take painkillers, so I opted out of that. I just stayed in pain. But I couldn't do anything physical. So everything, my life had been structured in a physical way. So I couldn't do it. I can't go out, can't go to the gym, can't work out with my friends, can't go hiking. There's nothing. And I have the doctor's orders. And I have the work. You know, work, if they catch me doing something, then I won't be covered. So everything's now preventing me from doing what I've always done. And I became very angry. And I had all this energy that would go for the physical part. And then I was talking to some friends of mine, and I told them a situation. And they said, you know what? You should get a computer. Learn the computer. And they were into computers. And I didn't like computers because I was a very physical person. So I got a computer. A big expense. They put together a computer for me at a reasonable price. And I said, why not? I have nothing to do. And so I set up this desktop computer at my place. And I didn't know anything about computers, and I started learning computers. And then I started learning how to write. Started learning how to write. And then I thought, well, I'm not a very good writer, so I started to practice my keyboard typing. And so all that energy, that pent-up energy, I channeled it into learning how to write on a computer, on a keypad. And then that started happening. Then my mind started coming up with stories and ideas. And then at the time I got into some creative writing. I took a course. And there began my writing career. But the writing would not have started had I not had that accident. And I don't think it was an accident. This is one of the things that the technicians say we got to get him on a certain path because he's got to write a bunch of books later on in life. So we need to start him writing now. And he's been refusing all these years. He's refused us. He's fought against us, and he's managed to evade us. But now we're going to stop him. And they stopped me. And I began writing. eventually became a writer. I took up writing. I became more intellectual. I became a pseudo-intellectual. I became educated. I started learning. I went back to school. That little thing changed the course. But there was this point that my resistance to it changed. Instead of saying I was doing all this before, I can get better, I can overcome it, I'll fight it. At some point I said, let's funnel this energy here and see where it goes. I didn't have to give up all of my exercising and physicality, but most of my energy went into this new direction. Now, what you see is what happened was, this was something that happened that changed my life, right? Now, had I resisted that, something more serious would have happened. Now, when I got older, when I got older and had all those experiences, this is now at late 30s, 40, the choices became much more serious. That we need to go to this level. There's a choice. And the alternative is far worse, more permanent. Something permanent. And that you're now forced because of a permanent, because you didn't go make that choice. In my particular case, we were dealing with, talking about metaphysics, talking about star people, talking about magic. All these things no one wants to talk about, has very little relevance. But because I learned to listen to the reality, to the system, and to the reasons why I'm here, and that all these experiences I was having and realizations and awakenings are not just some accident. It's not all a mistake. The universe doesn't make mistakes. I decided that it started with the star people, the star beings, that I had every reason not to go and get involved, and I tried to resist it, to find ways not to go ahead with it. But at some point, because the alternatives weren't very good, and so I went ahead with it. Now, some people wouldn't do that, and they experienced the alternative, and the alternative is some hardship in their life, some unexpected tragedy. Can be the loss, can be the loss of a child, can be a physical disability, can be financial failure, can be a career, can be a combination, can be a marriage, a divorce. Whatever it takes to make you start to look inward, start to open up, start to change. Because I understand the way the system works, I am at the point where I make the effort to look at the opportunity to respect it, because I know the alternatives, and I know that there are ways to motivate you. And I don't want these things. By the same token, that even you take the opportunity, it's not easy, and things will still happen. But the system recognizes that you have taken the opportunity, that you're in control, that you are at a level of awareness, that you are spiritually aware that you're in control. So some people may see me making these videos, and they may have all kinds of negative reaction. But the system sees me making these videos, and it says, this guy is doing what he's supposed to do. And that's all I care about. I am doing what I'm supposed to do, which means I'm following my contractual obligation. Because I have every reason not to have these talks, right? And some of them are good, and some of them are not so good, and some of them people like, and some people don't like. And we have I have a very small group, right? We have a very small group, but that's okay. I don't need a big group so I can have, I don't need a big group. My preconception was I need a big group, otherwise it's not worth it. But we have a small group, that's fine. We have this medium, that's fine. That's enough. That's enough for me to share this knowledge, right? So it's important, I think it's important that if you are at the level of awareness to start paying attention to those signs, to those feelings, to change. Because if you don't change, or if you don't willingly take the next step, you might be forced. Right? Like a divorce is because you're not listening. If something happens and you're forced to divorce, you're not listening. And at the spiritual level, I'm not generalizing, but every case is different, right? Because you need to be doing something else. And the problem is, if you wait too long and you drag it out and you're forced to have a divorce, then you're going to be, you're going to be miserable for a while. Rather than taking initiative, being a steward, taking initiative, I need to move in this direction. He or she doesn't want to go there, well, we need to keep going in this direction. And we'll see what happens, right? So my path is very unique, and has come at a cost, right? It's come at a huge cost. The benefits, the physical benefits, are very small, right? Most people at my age are doing far better. But spiritually, I'm on top. Spiritually, I am following exactly what I'm supposed to follow. And if you are here, if you're one of these older souls, if you want to graduate, you need to value that spiritual requirement, the criteria, because otherwise at the end you don't graduate and you'll come back. So people who are let's say younger souls, they don't have this knowledge, they don't have this impetus, they don't get these signs, they don't get these motivations, and they will follow a more subdued basic life, and they're going to come back. The older souls, the star souls, you don't want to come back. You want to graduate. That's the purpose of this video, is that you need to pay attention to that higher level of awareness, the spirituality. And a lot of the times, as I've said, you didn't come here because it's easy. You came here because it's hard. It ain't easy. You didn't come here because it's easy. You came here because it's hard. You didn't come here because it's easy. But you will go very far.